Murder, cocaine. The enormous bank of HSBC is filled with bloodstains on a myriad of walls. Yet with its highly attractive buildings lay some corrupt executives, making it difficult to decipher their real source of income. In 2012, the FBI submitted this detailed investigation to US Homeland Security, which described how HSBC is linked with money laundering, drugs, and terrorist financing. And when the US authorities read the entire investigation, they could not believe their eyes.
Bank HSBC was under fire.
The world's largest banks is accused of facilitating money laundering.
From supporting one of the most violent groups in Mexico to even becoming one of El Chapo's preferred banks for money laundering. And El Chapo, well, he was just one of the most dangerous Mexican drug lords ever, who has been confined to this maximum security prison. However, through HSBC, the business of firearms and drug trafficking was rampant. But how can an organization which was considered by some the world's most valuable bank in 2008, run this illegal business? Despite this, in 2012, HSBC Bank USA, also known as HBUS, operated more than 470 bank branches across the United States, handling around $210 billion worth of assets for approximately 4 million Americans. So how was HSBC running this systematic empire of drug lords? And why were US authorities afraid to shut them down?
Went to trial. No individual was banned from banking, and there was no hearing to consider shutting down HSBC's activities here in the United States.
For many banks, the foundation is built on the need to provide services to society and earn money from banking transactions. But for the Hong Kong-Shanghai Banking Corporation, HSBC, it began with an illegal desire that became a curse for centuries. After the First Opium War in 1842, the British Empire occupied the Hong Kong region of China. This was done to ensure they could continue exploiting the Chinese population by selling the highly demanded opium drug in the country. However, there was one big issue. In Hong Kong, there was no banking system to finance the growing trade in the region. As a result, Scottish banker Thomas Sutherland raised 5 million Hong Kong dollars and established HSBC. Now, the stage was set for the bank, as the consistent flow of opium trade in the region allowed the British Empire to significantly profit every year. This, in turn, empowered HSBC to become Asia's largest bank. A few decades later, HSBC expanded its offices to Bangkok, Manila, and Shanghai. Furthermore, it aimed to expand into every major country worldwide. But when it set its sights on the United States, something big happened. In 1980, HSBC acquired a 51% stake in Marine Midland Bank in New York, which had several hundred branches across the city. By establishing a strong presence in the country, American people considered HSBC a reliable bank. Nonetheless, their entire perspective turned into suspicion when over the next 2 decades, HSBC went on a shopping spree of acquiring US banks. For example, in 1997, HSBC acquired Rochester-based First Federal Savings and Loan for $620 million. Then, in 1998, it acquired First Commercial Bank of Philadelphia for $23.75 million. And in 1999, it acquired Republic New York Bank for $10.3 billion. But why was there such a rush to expand its footprint in America when it had already acquired Marine Midland Bank of New York? According to a 2010 survey conducted by Forrester Research, HSBC was also rated as the worst bank in the country by customers. In fact, it was rated one of the least trusted banks in America, which created enormous suspicion about its existence. So what was the use of those gigantic buildings if they couldn't serve customers properly? Well, it may be argued that these branches and acquisitions were not made for American consumers, but were created to secretly profit from illegal activities. In other words, this brand and its systematic picture acted as a secret gateway for Mexican drug lords. And it all began when HBMX, a HSBC affiliate in Mexico, was formed under its instant acquisition strategy. According to the FBI report, HSBC acquired a Mexican bank named Vital in 2002. However, when the FBI conducted a pre-purchase review, it was discovered that despite operating in a country with a high risk of money laundering and drug trafficking, Vital was not complying with anti-money laundering rules. Yet, contrary to its designation, Vital engaged in high-risk activities and even opened accounts for high-risk clients, including Mexican exchange services, Casa de Cambios, and American money services businesses, such as Casa de Cambio Puebla and Seed Corporation.
To comply with the legal requirements incumbent on all U.S. financial institutions.
The level of suspicion reached an all-time high when in 2002, HSBC Group purchased Mexico's fifth largest bank, Banco Internacional, then part of Vital, for $1.1 billion. As Vital had approximately 6 million customers and a staff of 15,400 people, this acquisition significantly increased their presence in Mexico. Thus, HBMX, also known as HSBC Mexico, was formed, and a gateway for Mexican drug lords was opened. Known for illegal drug trafficking and money laundering, the government of Mexico is consistently combating drug cartels. However, what they failed to realize is that one of their leading banks was acting as a perfect gateway for these drug lords. In a 2007 joint operation, the US Drug Enforcement Administration and Mexican governments seized, which at the time was labeled the largest cash haul in a drug-related case in history. The amount of cash recovered was $205 million US dollars, $17 million in Mexican pesos, and firearms that belonged to Chinese-Mexican citizen and businessman Zhenli Yegon. Now Gon was accused of importing and selling chemicals to drug cartels, who then used them to manufacture methamphetamine, an illegal drug sold in the United States. But the actual question is, how did he manage to transfer millions of dollars of cash without being red flagged by the banks? Well, it turns out Gon was a long-time client of HBMX. In fact, from 2003 to 2006, the companies owned by Gon transferred $90 million through HBMX and 3 other major Mexican banks, namely Banamex, BBV Bancoma, and Banco Mercantil del Norte, and multiple currency exchanges. Yet, in reality, none of these actions were conducted by HBMX. The situation became more intense when in 2008, Mexican authorities informed the HBMX CEO that they possessed an audio recording of Mexican drug kingpin El Chapo, in which he claimed HBMX was a perfect place for laundering cash. Nonetheless, despite HSBC closing the suspected accounts, they kept accepting dollar deposits from Sinaloa and moved $1.1 billion from Sinaloa to the US branches. As a result, drug cartels were making $60 billion a year by trafficking drugs in the United States. Furthermore, half of that money was routed back to Mexico, which was used by cartels to pay off politicians, run their businesses, and fuel violence to maintain their dominance.
How many billions of dollars do you have to launder for drug lords, and how many economic sanctions do you have to violate?
In December 2012, HSBC was fined $1.9 billion for failing to comply with US regulations and supporting drug cartels in money laundering. In addition, several other financial institutions were fined hundreds of millions of dollars due to illicit transactions. For example, Credit Suisse settled for $536 million in 2009, Barclays for $298 million, ING for $619 million, Standard Chartered for $330 million, and Deutsche Bank paid $258 million in 2015. Nonetheless, the most astonishing part is why were not more employees or HSBC executives arrested or imprisoned for committing one of the most dangerous crimes of the century? Could it be that this $1.9 billion fine was all part of the game? Because with $66 billion in HSBC revenues in 2023, a lot of powerful government, organizations, and people are depending on HSBC's business. Nevertheless, after HSBC received a fine of $85 million in 2021, it seems the money laundering business is far from over. So what are your views about HSBC? Tell us in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the like button if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching.